Do you know about Make It Work Club?
I saw the URL in the calendar invite, but that's all.
Yeah, this is like that community place where we all get together. Matt is there, so if you haven't joined, you have an invite. And then there's a calendar, what's coming up. We're here today. So this is what's happening today. In 2 weeks' time, we're talking about 100 gigabit home lab. And I'll do a sneak peek towards the end of this, after we're done heckling the Beal. That's the rule of the game.
I run like my own, personal blog, and I run a few websites that get almost zero traffic, right? Like, they're just really, my dad wants like a CV, of his online, and, I run like a snapshot of another friend's website and just all kinds of really, really small things, probably, maybe 10 domains, but probably they get, in the hundreds of hits, per week. Really, it's nothing, right? So for me, this is like a nice experimental playground. It's really not critical. If it goes down even for a week, nobody's going to care, like it's really not a big deal at all. So it's kind of just been a way that I just play around with running, multiple services, which is kind of interesting, right? You want to be able to run them easily, like several of them, and so on. For a very long time, I ran on DigitalOcean a 3-node Kubernetes cluster because I wanted to try a distributed system, right? And so I got familiar with Kubernetes through DigitalOcean's Kubernetes offering, and I got to play around with with the Nginx Ingress controller to distribute the load to all, the requests to all the different web domains that I manage, and all of that, right? I got to thinking after a while, but this is coming out to like $100 a month, right? Like, which is, it's okay for like learning and stuff, but it is kind of, it's a chunk of change, it's not free. And so, of course, I could have gone down to like one node on DigitalOcean, right? But it would still be $30 for like a VM. Maybe you could get like $20 for a single VM, and then you'd still have to pay another like $10 a month for a load balancer, because you just basically need a load balancer to get Ingress working. In using like Cert Manager and Nginx Ingress on my Kubernetes cluster, I really got to not liking Cert Manager and how it works, and so I built my own like drop-in replacement for Cert Manager, and that was kind of a little rabbit hole. And I have a repo kcert.dev, and so that's one of the open source projects that kind of came out of that. But then at some point I also ended up replacing Nginx Ingress controller with my own Ingress controller that basically just replaces both Nginx and Cert Manager, like in one piece of code. And I wrote that in .NET because I worked at Microsoft and I'm fond of C#. And and I had been using that in Kubernetes for a while. By the way, stop me if you have any questions. Or
why Kubernetes?
The reason I liked Kubernetes initially was that you could take your YAML configuration, put it in a Git repo, and have basically a snapshot, a record of your whole deployment, right, as a bunch of YAML files. And so that's probably the main thing, right? Raw Docker, I was very familiar with Docker at the time, and I was using it a lot. And then I just kind of, and honestly, I just wanted to learn Kubernetes also, right? So that was kind of another thing. Just learning about Kubernetes was very useful, like getting familiar with it just for all of the learning experience. At the time I was working at Automatic, and so they ran millions and millions of WordPress sites, but on their own sort of bespoke infrastructure that was very custom. And so you didn't really get an opportunity to learn about these more mainstream like open source projects that like everyone else got to play with. And so really that's kind of the only way I could really get the experience for those things. Plus I liked Kubernetes because it's available on all the clouds, right? Like, so you can run Kubernetes in DigitalOcean, Amazon, Azure, like everywhere. So that's kind of attractive too. Then at some point I was like, well, how cheap can I get, right? Like if I really wanted to like reduce my cost of running things, how cheap could I get? And I got to thinking, well, after now I'm familiar with Kubernetes. I even worked, at a I still do. Like at GitHub we use Kubernetes too, but even at Vercel we use Kubernetes. So I got work experience with Kubernetes. So do I need Kubernetes at home now, for my personal stuff? Maybe not. Oh yeah. Another step back. Like I was like, okay, what's the cheapest VM I can find, right? And I had created an account on Oracle Cloud a while back for a different project that I was helping out with, and I was just looking into like how does Docker, how does Oracle's cloud work and everything. But then I noticed that Oracle has ARM64 VMs, and they give you 2 VMs for free. They don't charge you for them. So I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going to set up my VM, right? Like free is great. So Kcert, it's been a year or so since I've updated Kcert, and I wanted to create an update. But as part of the update, I need to test Kcert, and Kcert needs a Kubernetes cluster. And so I was going to just go back and use create a temporary DigitalOcean Kubernetes cluster, but then I'm like, okay, I'm going to create like a single VM cluster, add a load balancer to it, and it's going to cost me like that much. What if I use K3s like on a standard like Ubuntu VM? And I was telling Gerhard about this, and Gerhard's like, no, you should use Talos. And so I was not really convinced initially, but Talos turned out to be pretty cool, and I got really close to getting it working and everything. And actually, that is why I decided to use Talos now for my other sites too. That's like how that happened. Yeah, I was actually for a while I was like, well, why did I switch from Talos, to Talos from Docker Compose? But yeah.
What's the first thing that you liked about it? I mean, it's one thing for someone to recommend it, but then you start exploring it, and then there's one or a few things that you quite like. Do you remember what they were?
I do really like the way Talos lets you just, you take this VM. Now, I haven't used the feature, right? But I love the idea of having this VM where you go ahead and build in, you say, this VM only accepts, requests from this cert, right? And so basically your VM is secure from the start. Like I really like that. And honestly, getting out of SSH is a great thing too, right? Like the REST API approach for controlling the machine and all of that is also really attractive, right? When you install like an Ubuntu VM and start configuring it, right? There's all these configuration steps that you have to do, and as a what's the word I'm looking for? A generic like operating system. You're getting all kinds of things on it that you're probably not ever going to use, and at the same time, you're installing things on it that you need, and so you just end up with this kind of messy soup. Yeah, I think that's really what I like it, because from that perspective. That said, there's still a lot of customization that needs to be done, like with Talos. So looking at the documentation, I think this is probably my first complaint, right? On about like the Talos documentation, front page, right? Like all of the tutorials they have. I could share my screen too, I think. The cool thing is here, they tell you how to like set up your how to install VMs on different setups, right? Single board computers, bare metal, cloud, of course. And so this is where like I followed these instructions to try out DigitalOcean when I was working on Kcert. And if you go through like the instructions, what you realize is what the default instructions, have you set up, right? 1, 2, 3, 3 control plane VMs, right? And then they have you set up 1 worker node, right? And so you're, right out of the box, you're setting up 4 VMs, right? And, and that's just too much, right? If you're just trying to kick the tires and you want to play around with it. And there's really like no instructions on how to do like a single box. Honestly, so of course I used like, Copilot and, Claude to get instructions on how to set up like a single node, right? Kubernetes cluster with Talos, and that all worked fine. And I actually kind of wonder where do these LLMs get this information? Because it's really hard to find this information, out in the wild.
Okay. Yeah. I'm taking a note. This is important. Single node VM, single node Talos VM.
Yeah.
With the talosctl. Okay, very nice.
Exactly. So
would you use DigitalOcean or would you use something else?
Well, I am going to use, or today, like I'm going to demo. So I'm going to demo on Oracle Cloud, like, because again, it's free and it's where I have things running, So okay. Yeah, it's.
Is Oracle Cloud in that list, by the way?
It is. So you go down here. There's Hetzner. There's Oracle.
Is it the same setup? 3 control planes, 1 worker?
Pretty sure it is. Honestly, I did not even go that far because once you get your VM once you get your VM started, like everything else stays the same.
Okay.
And again, also like everything here, the instructions here are for like you create a load balancer, and the load balances your stuff, right? But if you're doing a single VM, right, you just want to hit the VM directly, like if you're going to serve anything off of it. And so, all of the like nothing is here. And I mean, I guess I understand, right? Like these instructions are for like setting up a production quality, resilient Kubernetes cluster and all of that. But I still think they should have some clear instructions for someone that just wants to play around with it experimentally, and I think, and so I do actually now I've learned a lot about how to do that, and we're going to go over a lot of the tricks today here, and eventually I do want to post it and maybe even just share. I mean, I think you can even directly edit these docs and like submit it as a pull request. So I do intend on doing that.
Yeah.
The way this works, right, is you need to download an image. There's actually this image factory, which is kind of interesting for Talos, and you kind of select what you're building on, and you can pick like the version that you're using, and they have other options that are like I think this must like set up a VM kind of with some extra drivers or whatever for different clouds based on their needs. Now,
especially like on the partitions and how they get booted, the bootloader. So it's like cloud specific. And
then there's extensions, and again, I did not look at any of these. I just installed kind of the default settings here, and kernel settings and all of that, customizations and things like that. And so once you get that far, right, they just give you a URL to download the disk image. Interestingly, for Oracle itself, if you follow the instructions, once you download this raw.xz file, you need to create your own like image metadata.json file. And what you do is you uncompress the XZ file, and then QEMU image, you have to run this command like QEMU image convert to basically convert the entire thing, right, into like a .oci image, right? And so I'm not going to do that live here, so since I've already done this, right? But then once you get to this point, right, you basically take this file, the OCI file, and you upload it to Oracle's equivalent of an S3 bucket, right? So that's basically how that works. And so I already have Oracle open here. Let's see if I still have my credentials. Yeah, good, I do. And if you go here, you actually just have a section, custom images. I'll just open that in a new tab. And so in custom images, you can just do import image, and you just give it like a name, and let's see, the main thing is like you just give it your object name, right? Like from which bucket that you're getting it from. And surprisingly, this takes a bit of time. Like it takes a good like 10-15 minutes once you click create, and it'll create an image.
Okay.
So cool. By the way, you were saying we're going to debug issues. I don't think we have too much debugging to do, because I did fix, I think, everything that I was running into, and I kind of figured out like all of the things. I have not switched over to Kubernetes yet, but I do think I figured out everything. But I mean, if anyone has feedback on how things are, how I did things, and any extra information or ideas of how to do things better, like I'm definitely open for that. Cool. So once you then create, now you have like a custom image, right? And this was the last one that I was testing. So I created this one just a few days ago, and I was finishing up like some of the strange setup that I needed to figure out. So I'm going to actually just go and delete this one. I think.
Okay, so this is something really interesting that Marcos added in the chat.
OCI is a container spec. It's not Oracle specific.
Isn't that what it is in this case?
An Oracle custom stuff, because it embeds like a QCOW file as well. So it's a custom Oracle format.
Oh, is it?
Whatever. Yeah.
Let me go back to the instructions.
I was actually thinking about this, because how are they actually booting an OCI image into a VM? Because it's two completely entirely different formats. But when you're doing that, you're actually...
you're just tarring. It's just a tar file. Like the .oci file is a tar file with two things, right?
It's a custom thing that they have from the Oracle side.
So I do think this is kind of just especially as a beginner, it saves you some hassle, right? Essentially, because if you look at it here, it basically sets like your firmware, like network type, all of these different settings. Yeah, that one's terminating. So I'm going to, I think I had a, just to kind of save myself some time, I think I created an instance configuration. Yeah. So again, just timestamped. And so I kind of took a snapshot of all of the number of CPUs and like the architecture and which image and stuff like that. And so here I can just select like launch instance, and that it's already selected, my image and the shape, right, and all of that. Cool. So go next. Now, all of these are just kind of the default settings for networking and things. Great. So now when you have like a Talos instance running that's just kind of vanilla default, nothing, not pre-configured with certs or anything, right? What this basically does is now it should be running and it's just waiting for someone to tell it what to do, right? And essentially it's it's literally waiting for anyone to tell it what to do. So technically speaking, if someone beat me to it, they could just come to this machine, like this IP address, and configure it and then own, the VM, right? So this is, but again, I don't really view this as like, super risky, right? If I can't configure it, if someone beat me to it, then I just delete the image, essentially. So now what I'm going to do, I have a this is NBL space. Like this is kind of like what I call like my cluster or whatever, all of these things that I'm managing. And I have a little README that I kind of put in my instructions on how to set things up, right? And so this is this is my Talos section here. And so what I have these like the list of commands to configure Talos, basically. I have them here. And what I've done essentially is like just kind of given myself like a shortcut here. So what I need to know, of course, is the IP address of my server, right? And so in here, I'm going to run, I'm just going to put in my IP address here so that the rest of my commands here can be just copy pasted and run with no problem. So the first thing that you do essentially is configure Talos itself, right? So you need to create like a Talos config. This will auto generate like a new cert, to connect to Talos and all of that, right? And so essentially here, config my cluster, and you're going to you just give it, you tell it like this is the the endpoint, right, that it's going to connect to. And this was a command, this was an extra option that I needed to figure out as well, that I took a little bit of time to debug. Additional SANs here. So if I'm understanding correctly, what happens is the VM is running and it seems to expect that the cert has like a list of IP addresses that it accepts like for. And so what was happening, if you read like all of the standard documentation, like this is the command they tell you to run, like all the way up to here, right? Now, what I was hitting, and it was interesting because I only hit it in OCI. I did not hit it in, I hit it in Oracle, but not in DigitalOcean, right? What was happening was the apply config command was working fine, right? So it was able to submit the config to the VM. But then after that, whenever I tried to run like, Bootstrap or Health or whatever, it was failing and telling me that it only accepts connections to the private IP address of the VM and not the public IP address of the VM. And so I needed to explicitly add like the IP to my Talos configuration and give it to it, and then it worked fine. And I wonder if this has to do with maybe the default is like maybe the first network interface on the VM or something, and maybe in DigitalOcean the first interface is the public interface, and in OCI it's the private. Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what's happening here. Yeah, and sometimes the order, it's not always deterministic.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna run. Oh, okay. That already ran it for me. Very fast. So anyways, this now, so basically this creates my initial like Talos configuration, right? So so the Talos config here and the control plane and all of that. Let's see here. There's a couple of other commands that you have to run. So you need to add like an endpoint and a node. You have to say like config add this IP address as an endpoint and add it as a node, right? Yeah. So these are also just kind of like, it's sort of like to add your VM to the like cluster configuration. And so with that all done, now there is the trick that is like also not in the docs, but since I only want a single node, Kubernetes cluster, right? I'm going, in a more production ready setup, you're going to have, control plane nodes, right? That run like etcd and like, basically your control plane, for managing everything. And then you run worker nodes separately. And so that's why you have a control plane.yaml and you have a worker.yaml, right? Separate configuration for these things. Now in my setup, since I just want to use I want to have a single node control plane, right? And I want to use that control plane as my worker node too, right? So essentially the way you do this in Talos is pretty simple. You just open that up and you go all the way down to the bottom, and there is allow scheduling on control plane, and you just uncomment that. So that's basically it. So with that, the next command that I already have a step here. Oh, that's good. And then we're going to apply the configuration to the VM, right? And so that's just talos config, apply config, and this is the control plane.yaml file that we want to apply, and this is the IP address, all of that. And so you do that.
Why did you have a backspace? I was just going to say that seems to have been a typo.
Because I was doing everything in PowerShell, that's why.
See, this is good. Okay, very nice.
Cool. Yeah, actually, we can go ahead and make this universally workable on all operating systems.
Yes.
All right. Now, I think it takes a little bit of time for this to apply, but we can go ahead and run like the bootstrap command here, and that just ran. And then you can actually run health, I think now, and health will actually just wait. Like it'll actually tell you that it's waiting for things, right? And so this actually should just wait until the VM starts up. I think it has to do a couple of like restarts to get everything booted up.
Did you try the dashboard command?
No, I did not.
Would you like to?
Wait, can I do it now before everything is like set up? Oh, okay.
Yes, you can. Yeah. There is a dashboard. There you go.
Ooh.
So you get the summary, you get the logs.
Running, ready. Yeah.
That's what we're waiting for. And you get the logs from the node to see what is happening next. Machine is running and ready.
There we go. It turned green.
You get healthy, you get CPU, RAM, you get stuff at the top. And then if you do F2.
Where's F2 on this Mac?
I think function and then F2. There we go. You get this nice view, which gives you some statistics about CPU load, average, memory, processes, things like that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, I have not not looked at dashboard at all. Yeah. That's cool.
This is something which on some of the nodes, I like to have just like a small monitor, like a small display, and you can just basically keep this open to see the status of that node. Especially for home labs, this is really cool. If you have like a small display, like 9-inch, 10-inch, anything like that, this is a nice view that you can have open all the time.
This is really helpful, because especially like having the resource consumptions, because one thing that I realized, Oracle, like this does not work, right? Like the monitoring tab is basically not hooked up for Oracle in this, because of the custom VM. Yeah.
It needs an agent, and that's right. So the engine needs to report this. Cool.
Nice. Cool. So it is ready, right? And so
you can go back to Q to quit. Yeah.
Cool. And so now if we just try like the health one, just to come back to it, right now, like it just says everything is schedulable and ready to go. Now I'll go back to my docs so I know what to do. The next thing you need to do is to generate the kubeconfig. One thing I realized was I don't think you even need to give it like the nodes option here. If I'm not mistaken, we're going to try this out.
I think you set that in a config nodes earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
So we go here and we just do that. And that basically configures kubectl to connect to the Kubernetes cluster. So I think I forgot how it does the naming convention. So if I do config get contexts, I wanted to rename my cluster. I don't know why it does this by default. This was like the last one that I had set up.
Isn't that the name that you gave it? I think you used somewhere my cluster.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Do you see gen config?
Oh,
It's
okay.
line 71.
Yeah,
That's where he takes it from. Yeah.
Next time. Anyway, this isn't going to be my final, like, Kubernetes
That's
cluster.
okay.
This is for
Yeah.
demos, so we'll
Constructive feedback. Maybe another environment variable, something like that, and then you get to reuse it. Ultimately generated date-based. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. I can imagine it. Do you want to try the command that Marcos posted? Get location, get item name in the chat.
Oh, hey.
Will that work?
Let's try that out. That did it. Yeah, that's it.
Look at that. Look at that. Very nice.
I think you can do created, like creation time. Right? You can even do that. Anyways, where were we? We configured kubectl. Let's do
my cluster, kubeconfig. I don't think we got the kubeconfig stuff done. Did you?
I think we did, right?
Okay.
Yeah. There we are. We're in my cluster here. So so K9s works. That's great. Of course, right? You can do namespace. Oops. Okay, I think I didn't auto-complete it. Namespace. And yeah, you could go into like kube system and see like the pods running here and all of that. Cool. Yeah. We're gonna quit this. We're gonna open that in a separate tab. So now what comes next? If we go back to the README, I don't even know if I have anything after kubeconfig. Yeah, that's the end of it. Okay. Now we want to start deploying stuff, right? So all of my services are in GitHub, and they're being built and put in. Most of them are in like private package repositories, right? And so I need actually the first thing I need is the Docker token, right, to be able to like get the images from these packages. There is one trick that I need to do. I need to create kubectl. Is it create namespace to create a namespace? I think so. Should be.
I always use YAML files for this, so I can't remember off the top of my head.
So we'll get to why, but I need a separate namespace for my prox ingress, for my ingress basically service. This is the nice thing and the annoying thing is that Talos is pretty well secured, and so essentially here's the back. This is probably the biggest thing I was struggling with all of last week to finally figure out how to do. Now I want to have a service running in Kubernetes that is listening on port 80 and port 443 of the VM itself, right? And that just doesn't work out of the box by default. And so there is some special configuration that you need to do to get it, and we'll go over that shortly. But just to say, because I need to run my ingress service in a separate namespace, and everything else I have running in the default namespace, what I need to do is I need to deploy the Docker secret to both namespaces, not just default. And so I'm just going to go ahead and create like my namespace, because this is kind of what I have done essentially. So I played with YAML for a while, and I got tired of it, right? Like copy pasting like giant blobs of YAML got tedious, especially when you have like 10 services and you want to make like one common change to all of them. It was annoying. For a while, I was auto-generating like YAML. So I used like, JavaScript and handlebars like templates to auto-generate, YAML files and then apply those YAML files. And then finally, I wrote a .NET, program, like just a CLI tool in .NET that has like multiple commands that lets me do a whole bunch of things like deploying to Kubernetes. And so the nice thing I like, it doesn't have to be C#, right? You could use Go, you could use TypeScript, right? But you get like strongly typed interfaces to like the Kubernetes API, and that's what I really was after essentially. And so what I have here is a whole bunch of commands that I can run like in my tool. So each file here is basically a command, and the first command that I'm going to run is deploy secret, right? And so deploy secret is the command for, wait, that's not the deploy secret, that's the GitHub package token. That's the one that I want to run, right? So this command here is going to just fetch the token from my secret service, and it's going to create the Docker secret and update the Kubernetes service account to use the Docker secret, right? And so if you look into like the code for this, right, it is under the hood. It is literally like Kubernetes, right? It's like So I'm fetching the service account object, right, from the namespace, and then I'm checking if it already has the image pull secret set. If it doesn't, I set it, then I save it, right? So that's all this does. And so here it's just .NET run this, and cross your fingers and hope it works. Trying to replace existing secret. That should not be replacing a secret since this is a fresh install. And why is it taking so long?
Can we see the code again? Can you open it up? So what does it do? It gets read namespace service accounts async from the default namespace, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so default is the name of the service, and then namespace is the namespace.
I see, that's passed in, okay.
Yeah, so if we go up a little bit, right? So I'm going over default and prox ingress.
Yes.
Right? And I'm doing create Docker secret, so that's this one. Let's go into that one.
So hang on. Is the so you have, if you go back there, you have the secret is personal access token. Where does it get the secret from?
So that right now gets it from an Azure storage account, actually. But that should be working because I've already set up the connection string for that.
Okay. And then create Docker secret async. Why does it say create Docker secret?
Oh, wait, sorry. I got it. Create Docker secret. So yeah, that's going to create the Docker secret. Let me just see where it got, like, why is it taking so long? Because that doesn't seem to make sense, right? Trying to replace secret. So let's just find that in the logs. Oh, okay. So I try to replace first, and if replace fails, then I create. It's just a dumb like try catch here. I'm surprised it took so long, though. That's just weird. I would have expected that to fail instantly. Why is that so slow?
Is it connecting to the correct? I mean, is kubeconfig configured correctly?
Kubeconfig should. That's it. Yep. That's exactly so that's my. I know exactly what. Yeah, you picked it up exactly. That's the problem. So I'm going to stop that. Control C. I need to figure out. No, I think this is okay. So what I have essentially is settings.cs, and if you go all the way to the top, this is where the kube context is the mistake here. So this is now my cluster.
Okay. So one thing that I think would improve this is to not use contexts, to set the kubeconfig environment variable explicitly, and put the kubeconfig in the directory of the cluster. So when if you go back to your terminal, what you should have is you're in the Nabil space. If you go into CD, if you CD into the cluster that you just created, there's a new directory, Talos, that's the one. If you CD there, and if you do an ls, the thing that you would want to have is a kubeconfig YAML alongside all those files. These are all your configs. They're all in the same place, and they're cluster specific. So with an nvarc or an n variable, you could add Matthias or the edit, and this is something that we do in our own infra. You have the cluster. The cluster is the name of the directory, and the kubeconfig is in the same directory, so that everything, all the configs relate to the cluster.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And because you override the kubeconfig, you never have to worry about contexts.
Yeah.
As long as you're executing the command from the right directory, it will always work. And every single tool will pick it up, whether it's kubectl, kubeconfig, K9s.
That makes a lot of sense. I have notes here. I'm going to go ahead and take that.
You have less chance of deleting production, like I did in the past.
Yeah. Well, one thing
it will never happen. With this, it will never happen. Because, and we never use context, and you never use the global kubeconfig, because that can always point to wherever, and it can surprise you. All right, I'm going to share just one thing, and this is a teaser for next time. It's just a specific window that I'm sharing. Okay, so this was the test bench. Share my screen anyway. This was a test bench. This was the new home lab that arrived today in a box.